Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Butternomics. I'm your host, Brandon Butler, founder and CEO of Butter ATL. And today, man, we got an ATL legend up in here, man. And I know he's a legend because, the other day when I was out there with 3 stacks, he was the one that helped, make sure the right people knew about it, pulled it together, and over there having conversations with him on the side, man. I mean, so you already know, this got to have major status even be in a situation like that, man. So we got the one, the only, Mr. Chilio in the building. Chilio, how you doing, baby?
I'm doing amazing, Brandon. You really have a very good radio voice. I never knew this.
Hey man, a lot of people don't know. I did
I
some
was like,
stuff
you
back in the
do
day.
you do this. You
I
do
did
this.
some stuff back in the day, man. How you feeling, man?
Yeah,
You
I'm
good?
amazing, man. Thanks for having me, man. I've been waiting on an opportunity to collab with Butter ATL, Butternomics. And it's just an honor to be here, man. It's like I haven't done radio in a while, and I think this is the perfect time to share my voice and my wisdom to people who would like to listen.
Yeah, man. Well, look, bro, you've done a ton in these streets. I was doing some research. It was all this stuff that was coming back from all the stuff you used to work on and how you got here. But what I'm gonna ask you is, right now, let's keep it simple. If you were to introduce yourself to somebody, they would ask, who's never heard of Chilio, and ask who is Chilio? Who is Chilio?
I would basically say, hey, I'm Chilio. I'm an artist. I'm a mentor. I would also say a youth advocate, action sports enthusiast, and a dad. So I would keep it simple because sometimes people have a hard time wrapping their mind around people who are multifaceted,
Mm-hmm.
and we're always in a space to where people want to continue in a box or pigeonhole you. So I just try to sense really quick where that person is at and what they can relate to in terms of what they can wrap their mind around about me. But I'm very dynamic, and I have a lot of gifts and I have a lot of skill sets, and I try to use them all. I don't try to keep that to just one thing. Oh,
Yeah.
that's Chili O. That's the T-shirt man. Oh, that's Chili O. That's the cameraman. Like nah. I do a lot for a community.
No, man, I know you do a lot for Atlanta too, brother. Like
Yeah.
you've been here, you've seen how the city's evolved. You know, I know people love to talk about old Atlanta and new Atlanta and all this kind of stuff, and it's people get real defensive about that stuff sometimes. But like, I think it's just about having love for Atlanta. Because look, everybody's not from here, but people can still have love for the city. Like, but
hmm
my next question for you is like, what do you remember most about kind of what people consider old Atlanta? Like when people say old Atlanta, what does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, I have to get into my history. I actually was trained here. I wasn't flew here. I caught a train down here. It was almost a bus.
Yeah.
So I was at the point in my life to where I had a transient childhood due to family problems. I was born in Pennsylvania. I was supposed to have been conceived in Nigeria. My mother was pregnant in Nigeria. They had to rush her back to Pennsylvania because at that time, where she was staying at, the tribe wouldn't offer health services because they didn't want me to have dual citizenship in Nigeria. So she had to rush back to her birthplace, which was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then she had an altercation with her mother, and she chose to move to New York City at that time with my aunt, and that was in Long Island. If anybody knows Emily Moore from Roosevelt, they know she's a legend. So my mother moved to Harlem, 127th and Fifth Avenue, when I was a baby. And we stayed there till I was about 2 or 3, and then moved to Times Square, back to Pittsburgh, and then I ended up in Baltimore somehow for about a year when I was a toddler, and then back to Pittsburgh, and then I went to South Central when I was 8 years old. I went to Budlong Elementary over there off Budlong and Slauson.
Yeah.
Stayed there about 2 years, and then back to Pittsburgh with my grandmother, and then ran away at 15. Ended up with my father in Stamford, Connecticut, which is about 20 minutes from the Bronx, New York. And then I said, you know what? I'm gonna go to college, and I'm gonna control my life wherever destiny takes me. So in '93, it was a big HBCU push to move to Atlanta, which we all know.
Mm-hmm.
So the initial insurgents of people who flew here to Atlanta were black college students, and I was one of them. And the main draw was for me was A, outcast, B, a clean city, and C, a city that's a black city. And then, Freaknik was just
That was a cherry on top,
yeah,
probably.
that was the cherry on top. So, but it was more so about placing myself in a space with progressive young black folks in the early 90s when I moved here. And I birthed 3 ATLians, all girls. I'm a girl dad.
Shout out to the girl dad.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a little background about, because people really don't know me. I'm kind of aloof and mysterious. This is what people tell me. But when I first moved here, I immediately got work in the nonprofit space as a case manager, social worker.
Mm-hmm.
My degree was in psychology, so I worked in all the housing projects for the Head Start program when I was 24 years old. So, I was walking around College Park projects in a suit, Bankhead Courts, Bond Homes, Bolt Rock, Red Oak, Kennedy Street in the Bluff. So these are all the communities that I serviced fresh out of college. And in the back of my head, I knew I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get into fashion. That's initially what I wanted to do. I wanted to move to like Greenwich Village, New York City, pursue a career in fashion. But the way that the universe laid it out, I was of service to Atlanta's at-risk communities for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I transitioned from the Head Start program as a case manager to Fulton County Housing Authority as a self-sufficiency manager, which I had to help in the Hope 6 initiative back in the day, which is the reason how a lot of residents from the housing projects ended up in Clayton County and down there in Fairburn, Union City, through the Section 8 initiative. So I was one of the guys that kind of helped families become self-sufficient. I was getting them out the projects, getting them Section 8 vouchers, getting them in big, beautiful homes on the South Side, which I hope that they bought at this point.
Yeah.
John Lewis was a mentor of mine at that time. Michael Hightower, who was a city councilman, Bill Edwards, he was the mayor of Fulton County. Bill Edwards he's a real stand-up, bold guy. Betty Davis from Fulton County Housing Authority. These were all my mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And I left that, went back to Head Start. This was in Red Oak Projects, which I actually was the center director. I matriculated from pretty much the social worker to running the entire school. And during my stay there, I was able to get that center NACE accredited, which is a high-level accreditation in early childhood education, which led to a multi-million-dollar center built on Welcome Hall Road next to Camp Creek Middle, down there on the South Side. So, and then I left all that to pursue a career in fashion, which was my initial dream. So I just started hustling shoes and Timberlands and stuff like that out my trunk and all the hoods that I used to work in. And I just used to, network that way. And that led to me having stores in the flea market. So I had stores in the D Mall on the net, 82 Peachtree, the flea market downtown, 5 Points, and Greenbrier Mall with my brother Tim Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then from that excursion, that was the birth of Chilio Streetwear. And so that's my story. I don't think the city knows that I have always helped community in Atlanta. I'm a knighted ATLian. I wasn't born here, but I have been knighted by guys like Big Boy from Outkast, Vince Phillips. So because I'm assuming because of my goodwill in my 20s in the city that I became an honorary ATLian. So I didn't, even though I have the Yankee Northern accent, Atlanta still views me as one of their own because of my goodwill.
No, man, that's dope. Yeah, I had no idea about that background. I think, to your point, that's what's really interesting is, yeah, man, you were really doing the work in these streets. Like when you say Chilio in a suit,
Right.
going back in the projects back in the day, like that. That catches me off guard because I always thought you were just really mainly focused on the creative part. You know, I spent some time doing some community work too in places like East Lake Meadows, where I spent a lot of time at. I used to work with a community group over there, and
Wow.
I grew up on the east side, but I would spend a lot of times in my church and everything was downtown. I just knew a lot of people around there. Like, people talk so much about the different projects and hoods in Atlanta, and like they miss them, and like a lot of people don't understand too. Like, Atlanta was the first city to really have projects like that, right? Like, we were the blueprint, because originally it was for like middle class white families, but eventually they moved out and became more black. When you think about that time in Atlanta, is that something that I don't want to say miss, but like what was unique about that time in Atlanta? Like, what was the beautiful part about that, even though there was a lot of probably parts that were hard as well? Like, what was beautiful about that time in Atlanta for you?
Okay, well, ironically, the first center I was supposed to work at was in East Lake Meadows,
Okay.
Little Vietnam.
Little Vietnam, yeah.
Right, and also Wheat Street,
Mm-hmm.
Edgewood Avenue, Auburn Avenue. I don't know why they sent me to College Park. At the time, I was sleeping on my aunt's hardwood floor in Buckhead. I'm thinking, I remember being on the MARTA train with her, and a woman asked her, like, where do you live at? She's like, Buckhead. Like, she said it was such air, right? So I'm like, oh, what? Fresh Prince, Bel Air. You know what I'm saying? We're living it up. Like, I was, welcome with a hardwood floor. So I used to make my little pallet. But being that, I was just noticing how people were just casually speaking to each other on the train. And, coming from up north, that's kind of like a no-no, because you don't know if somebody has mental health, try to attack you. So the first immediate emotion that I remember about the early 90s is Atlanta's Southern hospitality. And it almost becomes addictive, because it's almost like the highest level of human communication, which communication is our existence. And when you dissect that level of communication in like other cities where it's very impersonal, it impacts our evolution as being a human.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I can say about Atlanta is the Southern hospitality. The good morning, hello, how you doing? Hey baby, you good? You want something to eat? Like, and that to me felt very inclusive. It made me feel like safe. It made me feel like I'm gonna have a positive day. And the nightlife wasn't as evolved, because we're a nightlife city.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was a weekend warrior back then, so I lived in Embarcadero, off the net. If anybody knows where Embarcadero is, that's where I stayed 7 years. And I realized that all the youth was gravitated towards me. So we were like the house that fed all the kids, that let them come in the house and play video. Me and my ex-wife, like, we used to let them play video games. Like, we would have hour-long conversations in front of my house and all that. So I nurturing the youth is very important, because a lot of those guys are heavyweights. Like, I don't know if you know a guy by the name of like Ray Daniels.
Yeah.
His business partner Jamal Pryor, Slow Mo 404.
We've had Ray on the pod. Yeah.
Right. So these are the kids that I'm talking about. Jamel Simon, who's on a real estate TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're close. We call ourselves cousins. But when I first moved there, they were just a bunch of wild little kids. And so I adopted the Southern hospitality mentality and used that as a way to get through to community with the youth, because we always say, man, are you crazy, man? Like, I don't know what's happening with these kids. They different. Like, and like me, I always place myself in their energy upon invite.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like the neighborhood barber in Embarcadero. So that was the first way how I connected with the youth. I grew up doing summer camp counseling when I was a kid. So I used to organize, okay, if we're all at the swimming pool, we're playing sharks in the water. Like, so me, I always, like a lesson plan, I always coordinated activities. Okay, if there's a bunch of little kids out there at the playground, I'm grabbing the football. We're playing football.
Yeah.
So, so Atlanta was a place to where it just felt safer. It felt more authentic. It felt, there wasn't, it was egoless in terms of nightlife. There wasn't bottle sections. There wasn't a VIP section in most places. I remember going to Club Kaya, seeing like the young bloods on the dance floor. Like I remember going to certain places, seeing Big and Dre. I'm not gonna say where, because they're fathers now. But I can't say it was on Cleveland Avenue.
Yeah.
Sitting right next to Big and Dre because there's no VIP section. I recall going to Club Illusions and just the dance floor, which was figure eight.
Mm-hmm.
Dance floor pretty much taking up the whole club. Like dance was a Atlanta was known for dancing.
Yeah.
Like it's not like today where bright ass light in your face on a dance floor, no privacy. Um, uh, Everybody's like exchanging frequency through dance. You know, um, I just remember swerving. Swerving was a thing.
I remember that.
Like you be swerving doing your bank head bounce. You know what I mean? It was like peacocking for the women, if you will. I remember every weekend in the underground was like Freaknik. Memorial Day was like Freaknik. And when I say like Freaknik, meaning that young people coming together knowing how to act, knowing how to have fun, knowing how to respect boundaries. These are all the values. People speak of old Atlanta because they want to preserve these values in terms of human interaction, positive human interaction. And it's dissipating because, quite frankly, the people moving here, they're skipping class when it comes to Atlanta 101. So how like when you go to college, you have to take your prerequisites.
Yeah.
So you can learn the way of the university or the college. As soon as you get off that plane, there needs to be like Atlanta 101 blasting through the airport. Like this is how you navigate in the streets of Atlanta. To preserve some of those ethos in terms of how I remember Atlanta used to be.
Yeah, because everybody's bringing, I mean, to a certain extent, their own cultures and their own perspectives here. And while that's good in certain ways, to a point it also drowns out and they kind of forget the way that we do things. I think I always kind of say, right, like one of the best examples of seeing that is going to a Falcons game or a Hawks game out here.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as the Knicks come in town, as soon as the Steelers come in town, the
Mm-hmm.
Dallas Cowboys, that's all the jerseys, right? And like,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's always interesting. Like, I don't think in other cities you'd see that on the reverse. Now,
No.
Atlanta United's done something unique in kind of building something that everybody can kind of get around.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with having pride in where you're from, right? But
Mm-hmm.
again, at the same time, you got to kind of respect where you're at. And so the kind of the work that you've done over the years and just again coordinating and organizing and just kind of kind of giving people guide rails to kind of stay within and just making sure folks were kind of coloring within the lines to a certain extent. Like that's where I think the best creativity happens, right? Is like there's no such thing as just unbridled creativity.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have some level of guidelines or constraints, right? It's just like sports. You can be as creative as you want on this basketball court within these rules, and that's what makes you amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes,
but there's still such thing as fouls.
right, there's still such thing as fouls, and we all understand what a foul is, and like as long as you're not breaking those rules, go be as creative as you want to be.
Right.
So now, when you kind of think about where Atlanta is now, especially from a creative standpoint, like what's kind of if you had to give like a state of the union for creative in Atlanta, creativity, creatives in Atlanta, creators in Atlanta right now, what would you say based on your perspective?
Okay. Atlanta has to invest in the idea of creativity because creativity is what made this city from the standpoint of music. Look at Outkast, like some of the most creative individuals in the World Dungeon family. They were coming with alternative energy in the early 90s, which was a rare thing. But Atlanta has to invest in the creative economy because that's where the cool points globally comes in at. Like New York wouldn't be cool if it wasn't for the Lower East Side, Greenwich Village, certain parts of Brooklyn, certain parts of Harlem, even certain parts of the Bronx, Queens, as it relates to creativity. LA wouldn't be the pulse city if it wasn't for, downtown LA, South, was it Silver Lake, uh, um, Echo Park, you know, even Miami. Miami's more south than us,
Mm-hmm.
but the Pulse is built around their art district, Wynwood. Wynwood was a southern. Miami is a very southern city, the most southern city at the southern point, until you get into the Caribbean, and they're more southern than us. Um, um, they were able to expand the identity of that city through Wynwood. And I recall being in Art Basel in 2008 with Greg Mike, Caleb Gage. They did Basel Castle, which was like one of the first corporate big major events at Art Basel. It's before they had blocks. It was like maybe Second Ave and like First Ave, Second Ave, something like that. And it was like a few blocks. Now it's like 7 blocks wide, 20
Mm-hmm.
blocks long. Now they're going up into Little Haiti, Little River. I'm sure some gentrification issues going on there, but just to see that kind of growth, and it's not a secret that developers use creatives to make spots cool, but we need help from the city to own these districts, you know, because what's happening is, as we all know, creatives once creatives get pushed out, then these environments become very sterile.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be a constant new energy coming in, a constant maintaining of the current energy, and a respect of the old energy. Like these variables all have to work together. And it's like the last thing that you want is um, for someone from a progressive city, like say like Paris, London, New York, Los Angeles, to come to Atlanta. Like, okay, well, we were doing that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like Bame, Tory, and Ian says Atlanta influences everything, right? So we have to keep a level of innovation and progression in that creative space, and that's going to require institution systems and funding.
Mm-hmm.
It's like once, like why did Edgewood Avenue work when we ran the block? And I say we, and I say myself and my friends. When we had Sound Table, Carl, Injex, Mona, Department Store, Luis, Music Room, Mother, Joystick, Edgewood Pizza, um, Noni's, City of Ink, R.I.P. Corey Davis, Spade with the motorcycle shop. We had a we had the blueprint for a creative district. We had the blueprint for a Wynwood. Even let's take it back. Let's go to Slice Life, Slice, City of Ink, Tuki and Maya Bailey. Um, uh, we had the Royal, Fadia Cater,
Mm-hmm.
Ian Ford, Bame Joyner, Reed Della Vega, Greg Mike, Caleb Gage. We had the infrastructure for the Wynwood there, but the city, they don't really know how to wrap their mind around the creative energy. So they just um, basically are comfortable with people from the music industry kind of dwelling in our space and say, okay, well, we're comfortable with that music exec, so he's a creative. And then that individual speaks on behalf of an entire ecosystem, which is like herding cats,
Yeah.
you know? And we have uh, all these clicks and all this energy, and and we use the term creative too unilaterally. We use it as like it's just one thing,
Like it's
but
a catch-all.
Yeah, but within that idea of creativity, there's a lot of microsystems inside of that idea of creative. So we have to stop using that term creative like it's just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very expansive. It's very diverse. It's very um, um, investable and it's equitable. Because I just did an event with Days Magazine, which is a high fashion street magazine that competes with Vogue and ID Magazine. Also, just did a collab with Nike. Nobody gave a, you know, nobody cared about it except for like the kids in the creative space. Um, that should have been something that was put on a that should have been catapulted because what did Atlanta attract? Atlanta did the first event with a high fashion brand. That's going to tie into Angela Watts' ATL Fashion Week campaign
Mm-hmm.
because now that we have partnerships with Days Magazine, maybe we can attract a higher level of fashion entities to the city. While incubating our local scene because it's a partnership. New York Fashion Week isn't just New York; it's the world. And if Atlanta Fashion Week wants to be on the level, Atlanta Art Week wants to be on level, then we have to include the world. But we have to include the world from the Atlanta way, just like how New York does it the New York way, just like Miami does it the Miami way. And I feel like our great mayor, which is doing a really good job to me, is one of the first mayors to kind of crack that glass ceiling and start listening to the creatives because I recall going to Caesar Mitchell's campaign when he was and keep in mind all the mayors wanted me on their campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Caesar Mitchell, Sterling Price, Kwanzaa Hall. Um and I don't know why like the creative um line item wasn't in discussion. Even Caesar Mitchell even mentioned that like Arc said that that they weren't even concerned about that whole creative and entity until we mentioned it. Like Fabian Williams and myself. So
Yeah.
like it's always a fight. Like we're just tired of fighting. Like there's the distrust from the creative communities and the city government. That there has to be bridge building and trust building. There's the creators really don't trust the city to be quite frank with you. And the artists that are in place are more older, seasoned artists who are comfortable in their skin. But when we're talking like the underground artists, 18, 19, 20, 21, alternative, pink hair, spikes coming out, like chains,
Mm-hmm.
you know, skaters, graffiti writers, dancers, they don't really have a strong trust for the city because they feel like the city isn't pouring into the community that's making these areas cool, which are attracting the developers.
No, I get that. And
Yeah.
so what I would ask is, and that's good context, especially when you talk about, current Mayor Dickens and his administration starting to like break that glass ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
But I always kind of say too, it takes it on both sides, right? So like if we finally do have somebody at the top that's starting to pay attention to those things from a creator standpoint, just speaking on all those different audiences, like what needs to happen, what do they need to start doing? Because engagement kind of goes two ways too, right? Like you want to make sure that they're starting to be engaged in things. So like what can the creative community, what do they need to hear? What do they need to start paying attention to so that they can also, because this stuff can't just happen from the top down. They also got to meet them in some capacity too, right? So what advice would you give to the creative communities out here to start leaning in and helping make those things possible?
I mean, I would say that's twofold because I think there's two governments
Mm-hmm.
to where the creators are becoming self-sustained in a way to where they're keeping it underground, like they're keeping it away from everybody. The main reason is because of safety,
Yeah.
because unfortunately, um, in the creative space, of course, we attract a lot, and some people like to come in and either A, be culture vulture, B, they like to, I guess, feel like they can take control because the creators are mostly overwhelmingly positive and safe, and they're not like head busters
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, we can come in and bully this, we can come take this over, this
Right.
cool, this us now, or the creators have to work with each other and create unity within each other before they can start talking to the city, because there's a lot of dissension and cliques between creatives
in that community in general.
Yeah,
Right.
so I would say there has to be some idea of unity at some point before you can even position yourself to work with a governmental entity like of their scope and size. And then B, I feel like we need a more faster, streamlined way of accessing the resource and the information.
Mm-hmm.
We all know when we're trying to get grants or if we're trying to. I was a recipient of the Creative Industries Grant. It was if I didn't have like nonprofit background, if I was just like a super right-brained creative who's not structured, on the left brain side, I would quit. I'd be like, man, I don't need it. Like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm done. It's like there needs to be more access to an easier way to access the information. Like for example, there was Invest Atlanta was helping elderly folk in this displacement program, right? I didn't see the literature until 2 days before the deadline. So of course, stories. I just calling as many people I know because they're gonna pay 10 years of taxes off and stuff like. They're gonna help these folks.
Yeah.
For real. It's a real program. But I don't think the campaign wasn't promoted in a streamlined, simplified way. That should have been on billboards all on the west side.
Right. You got to meet people where they're at to a certain extent.
Right.
Like you say, some of that stuff gets buried down, put on the website on the 10th page down. They don't really talk about it. And
Right.
a big part of it is it's interesting because when you go in other communities, and just be honest, like you go in like the communities like Buckhead or just other areas or more affluent communities, right, where people are really up there at their meetings and all that kind of stuff on a regular basis. They hear about that stuff, but to your point, right, like when these programs and these opportunities do come out, you can't talk to everybody the same kind of way. So
Right.
like, how do you go and actually go, with a megaphone and find a way to really amplify it in areas that you want to help and let people know, hey, this opportunity exists. There's a program out here, a grant out here. Like, please apply for it. Like, we
Right.
want to get this money away, but we can't assume that you're just randomly going and checking the Invest Atlanta website every week to see if new opportunities come out.
Exactly. There just needs to be very creative, cool social media campaigns that are Gen Z friendly, millennial friendly. We have to stop. We're in a day where corporations just have to stop being corny, man.
Right.
It's like Gen Z is not buying any of that, like that, that fake smile. It's like we always want the safe artist, and that's not what grows art scenes.
Yeah.
We can't just be threatened all the time because we have, like satirical artists like Frico, like your boy Frico you grew up with, like if you really listen to what Frico's saying, there's some there's some evaluation of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying like he's being satirical, but he's like also saying like as a people, like what are we promoting? Like what are we doing? I have children, like and he does it in a comical, satirical way, but he's considered a dangerous artist, and because he's outspoken and things like that. From what I recall, when I used to run around in Greenwich Village in 1988, when Basquiat was still alive, 16 years old, the free-minded, outspoken artist was the one that was
elevated. Yeah.
But here in Atlanta, it's suppressed because I guess maybe ruffling of some feathers. But if you really hear the message, it might be an innovative and progressive message that may need to be dissected, examined, so it can grow into something else. It's like, okay, well, we heard you. volatile artists.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the systems that we're putting in place to rectify that.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't be afraid to, look in the mirror sometimes, right? And when I say
Right.
that, I mean like those artists reflect. It's just like music; they reflect the neighborhoods, communities they come from. And if you're afraid that somebody's going to come out here and have a different perspective, like different perspectives is what help build, constructive conversations
Yeah,
and help shine the light on what needs to be addressed.
and I have a reputation for being outspoken. It's like I slow down on the drinking. It's like sometimes when I drink, it ignites the truth part of my brain, and I want to speak on some things because only reason why I get triggered like that is because I done talked to 10 kids that's saying we need A, B, and C, and so I just use my platform because I have a voice. I have a big voice in the city. So 9 times out of 10, when I'm going on rants and all that, that's not my personal rant. I'm speaking on behalf of the youth for the most part, or a community. It's nothing personal directed towards that person. It's just the people. This is what the people are saying. I'm not saying it. This is what the people are saying, and sometimes we have to listen to what the people want. If the people are clearly saying Atlanta nightlife is dead, and then the powers that be are saying no, it's not. I said, well, the people are saying it's dead.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, again,
Like, so what are we gonna do about it? Are we gonna keep acting like it's not? It's like privacy is caviar. It's like the next trend in nightlife is gonna be privacy. You're gonna see people paying just to be private.
mm-hmm.
You're gonna see new formats in nightlife with privacy stickers on your phone, like cool little branded privacy stickers that's not gonna damage your phone. It's like you can come in, but you have to put this on your phone and watch what happens.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, and again, you're bringing the message back. I think, you got to listen to what the people are saying, and you can't get caught up in not wanting to hear it because you don't understand it or you're not kind of in that space, right? Like if this is what's happening, this is what people are saying, that's also your responsibility as a person that is, in a city or government position, right? Is to listen to the people and what they're, even if it's different perspectives and just really getting honest with it. So like when you're, doing that work, how does it, and how do we take that and even funnel that into a situation like the World Cup that's getting ready to come here? Like how do we make sure when the World Cup comes here that the creative communities in Atlanta do get a seat at the table? Because I'm gonna tell you, like even right now, like I've been in some of those meetings and conversations, and I don't know what the hell is going on. It's been very kept behind the curtain. There hasn't been a comprehensive plan rolled out, and what I'm starting to see, to your point, is communities kind of starting to self-organize and say, well, look, we got to figure something out because we can't wait for it to come from the top down. So, how do we, take advantage of that moment? Because it's, like as a friend of mine said, that's going to be like, 7 Super Bowls and 1 Olympics is getting ready to happen to the city. And we know what happened with the last time the Olympics came, but how do we really make sure that creative communities in Atlanta can capitalize and benefit from that opportunity as well?
I mean, are we in the movie Casino? The movie Casino was about what? The movie Casino was about how the Las Vegas Strip got built
Right.
when it was a small town. Atlanta's going through its gangs of New York phase, if you will. you know, if like I know, and don't be specific in terms of the region.
Yeah.
But what happened? Immigrants came to Manhattan and they were all jockeying for a position in ownership, right? The movie Casino, what was it about? Certain entities were coming to the table and they were clashing. Outside entities were clashing with local entities about this development of a multi-trillion-dollar idea,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And Atlanta's just going through those growing pains right now because we decided to put international on our airport. So once you say international, you have to be open to the globe. You're going to have people moving here to the city, you know. And it's just like, how do we get that Atlanta 101 as an infrastructure through the psyches of the people that move here? When you move to New York, people have a New York Yankees hat on 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
How come we don't have that Braves hat? How come people aren't so willing to put that Braves hat on because New York pounds that idea of New York in people's head, that New York 101, you know? So when it comes to what's happening with the soccer situation, I'm sure there's people in there who want to have the stronghold on the opportunities before they release it to the masses.
Yeah.
And again, it relates back to how come this information isn't being disseminated? You know, why? Why isn't this information being disseminated? Why is it that I have to, holler at BAME, because BAME said he's definitely going to do a better job of getting that information out because BAME's a martyr like that, you know? Like he's thinking like you, like how do we get this information out? The people needs to know because we're gonna have the city population is gonna be double. 500 people are expecting to come in the city of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Everybody should be able to benefit off of that. Besides, $50 a part, $100 a part. You know what I mean? It has to be something more innovative. Besides that, it needs to be pressure put on these corporations to partner with local entities that are putting on for the city. Like the corporations, they should lead the corporations to say, look, this is the list of partnerships, of certified partnerships that you can select to partner with. Like we need to create partnerships with local artists, small and big, because we're gonna have when they come, we're gonna have one person for every resident in the city of Atlanta here.
Mm-hmm. And so that's a moment. Again, that's one of those inflection point moments where, yeah, to your point, the people have to learn people have to be in a position to be able to take advantage of that beyond just, like you said, park in and be able to hopefully throw and sell some merch here and there, right?
Yeah,
like
sell some merch
how can
or
they
like
really
throw
get
up a barbecue pit
Yeah.
or there needs to be inclusion. I mean, there's just no other way. It's just like because Atlanta will get creative now if we're not included.
right.
And the city might not be happy with that creativity when they could have just had that conversation up front through upfront inclusion practices.
Yeah, man. And so that's definitely no, I agree. Again, I think this is a moment. This is a kind of an inflection point moment for the city, and it can go in a lot of different directions depending on how they lean in. And to your point, I think in general the city just has to start doing a better job of putting this information in the communities and getting it in the hands of people that can really make this change versus expecting the people to do the work on the other end and going and find it and dig in and fighting for it, right? Like because it's out there and certain communities get it, certain people get it, but the more we spread it out, like that's when you really kind of start seeing some of those different creative and innovative ideas. To your point, because Atlanta will find a workaround, and that workaround, y'all might not like that how it all comes together. You know what I'm saying?
You already said took your spot and trapped it out. You heard what that man said?
Right.
Like so, it's like there should be no excuse why Atlantucky has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I mean nobody. Like again,
there should be no excuse. Like you walk out their front door. It's a black-owned brewery. You walk out the front door. You're looking immediately at the dome. It's Castleberry Hill, just right there, and that's supposed to be an art district, which Maya and P Hollywood and Stretch and all them doing a great job of incubating and getting it back the way it used to be in terms of an art community. They should have first dibs. It's like a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Even though P Hollywood, she's involved in those spaces, but she's just one voice that has to, she has to join and arc that thing, you know what I mean? Like get the information out to everybody. And it's like, it makes no sense that like the leaders and like 2 Chainz and all these people, 2 Chainz, he's always going to be in the know, but they're in Castleberry. Like they should send correspondence to grab all those business owners and have direct workshops
Yeah.
on planning. Like, what are we gonna do, y'all? It should be given to them. It should be something. It shouldn't be something that is hidden from them.
Yeah. They got to go seek out, and
Right.
I got some.
There should be correspondence going to people who has been consistent and putting on for the city of Atlanta, and getting global attention. You know, and they should be just like how back in the day I used to have to go out there and find them kids to fill them empty schools.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they paid me to go put on a suit and get chastised, you know what I mean, in the name of filling up them schools. Because when you walking around the projects in the suit, the first thing they're gonna think is what?
Yeah, you one of them. You want
Yeah.
to fed or something.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
exactly. You know what I mean? And I'm not. So I'm just trying to get these kids, playing at this playground all day up here in this school, so at least they can eat 3 times a day, get some education.
Well, no, that's the through line, because
Yeah.
even now you have Wheels Up Atlanta, right? Like, how does that program work?
Well, Wheels Up ATL happened because we I'm a BMXer to the city. Like, I've been BMXing since the '80s, and I was one of the guys that kind of built BMX culture from the black standpoint, because and Georgia BMX it's a very divided sport, because you know how Georgia get.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to go into it. Once you leave outside 285, you know what it is. And I'm one of the guys that was one of the only black dudes in Bremen, Georgia, Thomaston, Georgia, Griffin, Georgia. Like, Dixie flags everywhere, and I 16 feet in the air with them. You know what I mean? People, I was always outcasted. You would ask questions like, "How did you do that trick?" I don't know. You know what I mean? So I would have to figure this. This is '95, y'all. And I built some dirt jumps down there on Goodson Road, next to the trailer park in Union City, next to the lumberyard railroad track. I had jumps like back in the day. So if you go to my Instagram, Chilio Loves You, that picture of me in the air is right on Goodson Road, Union City. But guess what I used to do? I used to take kids from Red Oak Projects, Boat Rod Projects, Cascade, and Embarcadero, and teach them how to jump bikes. And I realized that that's all they wanted to do. They weren't being as mischievous in the neighborhood out of boredom and things like that. So we had a ride out for the All-Star game with Natalie Hall's son and DJ Mars, and I realized, like, all the boys, they didn't have pedals, they didn't have seats, they didn't have grips, they didn't have brakes. They were on Walmart bikes, and they still had that thing. They still had that front wheel up in the air.
Yeah.
For, like, not just for blocks, like 10 blocks, 16 blocks, and in that culture, in bike life culture, every city has like $1,000 bikes. Or every kid in the hood, they have like the best bikes. And I'm like, oh, Atlanta can't. Oh, we can't go out like that. And that goes back to, we have the whole innovate thing. We got people from multiple states coming down the ride with us, looking at us like, damn, like, Atlanta doing bad. Like, you know what I mean? What's going on? And I was like, oh no, we can't have this. So I said, all right, I'm gonna commit to asking my friends to help me get 5 bikes for the kids. The bikes are $500 to $1,200. The bikes are very expensive that they need, because they're built to endure the stresses of how they ride. It's an extreme sport. If you don't know what an extreme sport is, I'm sure you heard of the X Games.
Yeah.
That's what these boys do. But guess where they're from? Bankhead, Fort Ford, Oakland City, Swats, Pittsburgh, Mechanicville, and got the 5 bikes real fast. And I was like, maybe I can get another 5 bikes. Got another 5 bikes. And I just started running to Oakland City. And, like, Little Baby hood, right across from Little Baby old house. Like, if you could wheelie this block, I'm giving you this bike. And they was like, I could do it. And they wheelied the bike. I was like, this your bike. And then all the kids, I need a bike. Chilio, I need a bike. And I just was going literally to every hood and just giving them the good bikes they need, right? And now we're up to 88 bikes. So I'm like, we have to call this thing something. So in that group, there's teachers, there's fathers, like there's social media stars who all willie, So I said we have to structure this. We have to call it something, and it needs to be tied to a cause because either we're going to be a bike club or we're going to be a mission,
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, we want to go with the mission. I said, well, we need to go nonviolence. We need to go, because too many kids are shooting each other. So how about Wheels Up, Guns Down? Because that's what the boys up in Baltimore coined it. Willie Wayne and them, which Wheels Up, Guns Down. I said, so let's take their narrative and just call it Wheels Up ATL. Let's just take the guns down out of it and just call it Wheels Up ATL and make it like a program for nonviolence. But the city looks at the boys like they're tyrants because how they ride in traffic and stuff, but they're not realizing that that's an extreme sport. They did the same thing to skateboarding. Remember, if you skate over here, you will be locked up.
Yeah.
They did the same thing to BMX riding. If you jump off this wall, you will be locked up. And I actually have friends locked up for doing tricks, like on places where they probably wasn't supposed to be. Same thing with these boys wheeling. But guess what? They not bipping. And if you don't know what bipping is, I mean, your stuff is like not in your car no more.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not running around, just doing the things that we all know kids do. Guess what? They're on their bikes every day. And it's a lot of them. So it's like when we do organized ride outs, we got 120 kids from opposite neighborhoods because we all know how the gang energy is in the city. So we have all these kids united for one cause, and that's a bike. And it's like I don't have the time to go back into the nonprofit space. So my nonprofit is the Invisible Army. My job is just to deliver the resources to the nonprofits.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get my guy Clayton to be the executive director of Wheels Up ATL because he spends the most time with them. We all know Chilio's extremely busy helping community outside of that. So I'm trying to get him to step up, become the executive director. We have pretty much a board already in place. We just need the funds for the nonprofit. I have the Arthur Blank Foundation ready to get involved. I just need commitments from the adult that they're going to run this nonprofit. I'm going to do the Invisible Army where I just raise funds to get the bikes they need and action sports. And I really want that to be bigger. I want, kids who can't afford skateboards, kids who can't afford dirt bikes to do motocross, kids who can't afford BMX, kids who can't afford to go on snowboard trips, kids who can't afford to take surfing trips, all from at-risk communities. That's what the Invisible Army is funding kids who have alternative interests in sports, right? So now it's like we need the structure because like we realize that the boys need mentorship, they need jobs, they need all these peripheral things so that they don't revert back to what they were doing. Because we lost maybe 3 of them to like violence.
Yeah.
So they're currently in prison, and on trial. We tried, and maybe after that process they'll come back and do better, next time. But we have a solid 30 kids that are committed, dedicated. We have seen behavioral changes. Well, we're insisting that they do community service. So they do around the holidays. They do clothing drives and they go and talk to the homeless. And all this stuff is documented on the Wheels Up ATL page. Wheels Up with a Z, we're actually partnering with Big Tigger. Or this next ride out with the Atlanta Beltline.
Mm-hmm.
Because my thing is with the boys, I keep telling them, like, stop willying all crazy on the Beltline. You making us look bad because swerving, like there's a trick where you willy up to somebody and you just swerve out the way real quick. That's really the top thing that says you're the best rider. Like you're swerving. You know how I used to swerve the car, swerving the bikes is the top skill set that says you're the best. And I'm like, you can't do that on the belt line, but they're kids. So, if I'm around, they're not going to do it. If Clayton's around, they're not going to do it. But if we're not around, what they going to do?
They're going to do it.
But I keep trying to tell them that you're harming the communication that I have with the belt line by doing that, because now y'all looking like a bunch of tyrants.
Right.
It's like y'all can swerve anywhere. Just don't stop swerving on the belt line. Just if you're going to willy straight, so the belt line, I am talking to them, so don't feel like we're not. But we are going to partner with Big Tigger and the belt line and do a stunt show on the 14th down there at the breweries on Lee Street.
Oh, that's dope, man.
Yeah,
that's dope.
So Dope Peddlers is going to be there. There's another bike group, Pedal Pushers. They're going to, and these groups also help me mentor the boys, Jay Reed and them, Pedal Pushers, Dom and them. Dom is actually one of the board members on Wheels Up ATL. We have a mental health therapist by the name of Sheila Leroy that rides with the Dope Peddlers. Auntie, we call her Auntie. She kind of helps out with the boys. So if we can just get the commitments from the adults and get the funding for the nonprofit and get some peripheral funding, maybe some partnerships with a space. We have a Black-owned skate park, indoor skate park on Donald Lee Hollowell. Bankhead, I didn't know that history about Bankhead. It's been floating around social media, but it's right in the city. We have a Black-owned indoor skate park, y'all. So we're going to partner with them. So we're going to do programs out of that space because we have an indoor space. And Michi, who runs that property, is going to let me build dirt jumps off the Beltline. Also, I'll sit with the board with Rob Bronner from the Beltline and for the new West Side Bike Park that they're about to build, which is a $14 million bike park.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to have the jumps. It's like, what a skate park is.
Yeah.
We're going to have the biggest bike park really in the nation. Like, we're going to have one of the biggest bike parks in the nation, especially in the Southeast. So we're going to have people to travel to this park. They're putting a lot of money into it. The founder of MailChimp is a big bike enthusiast, mountain bike enthusiast.
Ben Chestnut.
Yeah, the Chestnut family. Ben
Yeah.
Chestnut. Shouts to him. So if you go to my Instagram, that's who I'm talking to in that meeting. Great guy, selfless. He attracted Coca-Cola. He attracted the Arthur Blank Foundation to help with this $14 million project and some others that I can't mention. And Mountain Bike Atlanta is spearheading this with the Beltline, MTB Atlanta, if you want to check them out. Because Rob told me to get the word out, so I'm doing it now with you. And this is going to be huge because it's going to be the first accessible multi-million-dollar bike park, and it's going to be skill leveled. So you're going to have stuff for the kids all the way up to the advanced.
That's dope, man. Well, look.
Yeah. So
man,
I just wanted to put that information out there and let the city know that we are doing some positive. The creatives are partnering with the city to do some. The Beltline's starting to get it. They're realizing that the people who were there before, which were the creatives, are kind of driving the Beltline culture because in the beginning, the Beltline, during COVID, the Beltline had a certain look. But now if you go down there, it's very diverse. It's young. It's fun. It's cultural. It's safe. We need to protect that energy. The Beltline is not going to be like the East Beltline. The Beltline's goal is to have various experiences depending on what that community wants. So say you might go to a certain community, you just want to be sit at a lake. That's what the train is for. So it can. I don't want to be in the sprawl of the East Line. I want to just go chill at the lake. So you hop on a train, you go chill at the lake.
Yeah, they building this whole thing out, man.
Right. You might want to go up to the West Side and do like the West Side thing or whatever the West Side wants to do. But it's not going to be that overly developed energy that's on the East Line. Each, like Boulevard Crossing, like that new park they just built is very cool, and it's just like you can have different kind of experiences, I guess, depending on your introversion or extroversion level.
Look,
Right.
Chilio, I appreciate this, man. You've given a lot of context. You talked about the history, how you've gotten here, all the work you've done in the streets, what the creative class needs to do, what the city needs to do. This is a lot of good information, man. Before we get out of here, just first of all, thank you for the work you do. You know what I mean? Just, for just doing that kind of work. I know it's selfless. I know it takes a lot to show up in those places and just make this thing work, especially because you have your own things you want to work on and all that kind of stuff too. So for the folks that don't know, man, how can they support you? How can they support the things you're doing? How can they, get the stuff? Like, give them all the things.
Yeah, just the way that you can support me is really taking a real look at how the creatives are, because we get a bad rap because a lot of people dress like us. But if you're a real creative is about beautification. It's about improving quality. That's why you have gardens. Like you see in creative communities, like paint on the wall, gardens. Like we add positivity. A real creative is going to add positivity to community. So you can also support my clothing brand, chilio.com, which is, we made 20 years last year. So we that's a whole nother discussion on how we pioneered, how we kind of cracked the glass ceiling for streetwear for Atlanta, because they definitely was trying us. And like we had to literally fight for our name in that space back in like 2001. And yeah, man, if you could just really take a look at what we're doing with the youth, because we all saying the youth don't have anything to do. It's like we're not even funded, and we're just a group of volunteers that's doing some dynamic things in that space. Please take a look at how we are selflessly volunteering for that with no money, and maybe come up with some ideas on how we can engage youth better, because we all say there's nothing for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
So just please, like, really, really look at how to get programming for the youth right now. That should be like one of the top budget line items in the city fiscal budget.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, yo, man, appreciate you pulling up.
Yeah, for sure.
Giving some perspective, sharing what needs to happen, and I hope people take this and really learn some lessons from it, man. And again, thank you for all the work you've been doing in the community for all these years, brother.
Man. It's like I'm not going nowhere. I don't even try. It's just hard for me to leave, B. Y'all don't got this, y'all don't got that. Oh, time to get back to the A.
Yeah. Well, look, man, we appreciate you pulling up, man.